Yeah, it's very interesting that so many people would regard Newman in the category of being a doctor of the church, and it may, in the wisdom of time and years to come, it may happen that he will be declared such. And the reason being because he was such an intellectual giant in so many areas. But just perhaps to reflect, first of all, on one of the big themes that, and it's so relevant for the whole theological discourse, his sense of the development of doctrine. And that was a huge thing for him because he came from the position of being a Protestant to being a Catholic, and the Protestant classical position would be Scripture and Scripture only. And that would be the evangelical, I suppose, background that he came from. He was indeed high church, but he had this interesting conversion when he was only 15 years old, and it left an indelible impression on him that Christianity was a religion that there were revealed dogmas, and that left an indelible impression on him as a youngster and stayed with him right throughout his life, that there is something there that you can measure your belief up against, and it's revealed and it's there and it's in the Bible. But it needs unpacking. It needs, he found from his, I suppose, delving into the fathers and mothers of the church. In one of the homilies that I heard in Rome over the weekend, they were saying that right through a summer vacation, he read the entire corpus of the church fathers. So he'd have looked at their work, gone back to the source, like going back to the start of a river, to see Christianity in its purest form. And he saw that the gradual unfolding of the message of Jesus Christ, that it needed interpretation, it needed to be, I suppose, just like in a law system, you have the law and then you have the lawyers to interpret the law. So too in terms of theology, you have what is revealed and it's in the Bible, but you need to have theologians to interpret the law, or to interpret the scriptures, to interpret what we believe. And St. Paul was one of the first to do that. And the various different traditions that arose, the creeds that arose, the ecumenical councils, the magisterium of the church, to be able to interpret what exactly Jesus Christ was saying to us and saying to us for our time. So he developed this thought form that doctrine actually not so much changes, but it develops, or it evolves, and our understanding of it evolves, and our grappling with it. And one of his most famous phrases, it's used so often, that to live is to change, and to be perfect is to have changed often. And he brought that sense in one of his most famous works, The Development of Doctrine, into his understanding of that our interpretation and our mature understanding of the main principles of our faith, they take time to evolve. So, for example, in his time, the doctrine of the Immaculate Conception was only formally defined. It was believed by the Consensus Fidelium, it was believed by the Church, but it was only formally defined then. And so too with doctrines like the Assumption. So that was one of his great contributions, the sense of the development of doctrine. And he wrote an interesting book on that, just at the cusp or point of his conversion from Anglicanism to being a Catholic. And it has huge implications for theological method in the world that we live in.